So I guess the nominations will have come into you, Michelle.
Yes. They can just send in nominations, or if you receive any and you can forward it to me, we just need something of a paper trail.
Got it. All right. So I will post a note to the TST channel at least, telling people to do that, and I will go prod the current TST members that would likely be submitting their names for being re-upped on the TST. And we've already have a plan for getting the voting roll together. So I think I wanted to talk about that first, so I think we're good there.
Okay.
Um, and I just went and looked at the governance, and I believe it's myself, AJ Wujong, and Sean that are officially up for our current terms are ending. All right, so there's a topic here. I see it's under SD core, but it's Ether wide. Uh,
Right.
Gabriel, I recognize what it's about, so go ahead and maybe we can kick off a little discussion and see if we have any options here.
Yeah, so this is kind of a little bit related to some topics that I have touched in the past. However, last week I attended a workshop, the SRS Run workshop. So I was talking to multiple people, even with people from the ARA team, the Iowa State. And, most of the people were not even aware that the project was still active. Um, some people from SRS Run were thinking that it was unmaintained, inactive. Um, the LF team did kind of like a presentation about Okudu because it was, SRS Run kind of towards of the Okudu work for the next 3 years. When the LF person had the presentation, so you need the RAN, you need a core, you need multiple components to have this end-to-end system to work. But at some point he was talking about Ether, some other times he was talking about the SD core, sometimes he was talking about SD RAN. So it was kind of confusing to me, even though I was kind of like familiar with the whole thing, right? So that's what I was kind of wondering whether it can be something more consolidated from the perspective that core from the source code perspective, we are still using some OMEC project that we know that was the kind of the 4G legacy, but it's not even active anymore and it's not even linked with the Ether name itself. The other part that the SRS-RAN team complained a lot says, you are calling this SD-RAN, but it's completely misleading. So it's not an SD-RAN, it's just a rig. So better to just call it as it is, what it is. And basically for new users, they may be expecting some SD-RAN, some RAN there, but how can SD-RAN and Okudo work together if they are two RANs, right? So especially from thinking from people who are not familiar with that. Which now we know that SD-RAN is actually just it's a rig, so that should be named properly as it is and give awareness to multiple people. So the ARA team they have a demo with a SRS-RAN on the whole deployment. But of course, the SRS-RAN repository comes by default with OpenFiveJS, so which makes things easier for them to actually just use OpenFiveJS instead of using Ether core. So all these things that I think we need to do something on properly sending the message and raise awareness for the community, like a unified thing of whether the project is still maintained, how to make things easier for the users, and again indicating that the project is still active, at least from the core side perspective. That's where we have spent a lot of time. The other part that I was kind of mentioning to you that through Slack, that the ARA team were planning to kind of integrate the rig with with Okudo or SRS-RAN. So they're not gonna be able to do that, right? So because we already tried that, and basically because of this multi-TLNA requirement on the rig, is not gonna be able to work. So basically, when the ARA team is gonna do that, they are gonna fail that's going to be frustration. So that's going to be more like unhappy users, at least from the run side. And that's not going to impact just the run. It's going to impact the whole Ether project. So because they're not going to talk, oh yeah, this rig is not properly working. They're just going to talk Ether is not working. So and that's going to impact negatively to the core itself. So these are all these things that we need to actually put some emphasis on, you know.
For Ether and SD core, right? I mean, maybe the way we present it on the wiki of the website. I mean, Ether is a private 5G network which has all the components, right? There's the rig, there's the core, there's the rock. But maybe we want to show that the SD core can work with any RAN out there. You know, it's like a Lego, right?
So there, I completely agree with this notion, and it's been frustrating on a number of levels. One of the ways I tried to address it, and just want to make sure you're aware, and we can build on this, is there's a project map on the wiki, and the first thing that I was very sensitive to is some people call it SD core, some people we also call it the Ether core. So I tried to establish an equivalency between those two names. And likewise, SD-RAN is really the Ether near real-time rec. So
correct.
Right.
All right, so it's there, but who actually reads anything, right?
That's yeah.
But so sorry for interrupting you, Larry, there. But what you are showing us is basically the rig that basically I need to go into kind of search deep to find these specific things. But I believe this kind of clarification has to be on the Ether project website, right? That would be the first thing that users can, when they look for Ether, that's one of the first results that are going to show up, either the documentation or either the Ether webpage.
Yeah,
and
well,
the
so
Ether
that's
webpage, that's something that we need
I
to
agree.
highlight.
It should be on the Ether webpage, but I think there's a balancing act there that the webpage is really the glossy, and if anyone that wants to get into it needs to go to the wiki. But point taken. Let's go to the Ether. Let's look at that. Yeah, this could probably be updated. The problem is on the front web page, it's very high level. Right, you can't go into it very much detail, so you've got to dig deeper. Let's dig deeper into SD core, for example. What does it
Larry.
say? It's the centerpiece of Ether. It doesn't actually establish that equivalent terminology, but it could.
Exactly. Yeah, so there you can mention Ether SD core, or also known as Ether core, for example. That would be a first point of kind of showing this kind of like differentiation and specifics. The other thing is,
and maybe also here we mentioned that the SD core has been working with a variety of RAN, right? We can give examples, right? Ericsson, OAI, SRS. So people know they can go and connect any RAN out there to SD core.
So let's see. Yeah, so it's easiest for me, personally. It's easiest to edit the wiki for all of us. Any of us can edit the wiki. At some point, I was trying to make the point that the core, I guess it doesn't say it here, but it was trying to emphasize that the core works with all RANs. It's not a core attached to a particular RAN, but maybe that didn't get made here. Yeah, it's an important point to make. I think it's a critical one.
Yeah, but again, that would be a good way. I don't know if there is a way to kind of, let's say, modernize the web page, just to use a name, modernize, right? So something that makes things easier to kind of update the content. I don't know, something like WordPress or whatever it is that makes things simpler.
It's WordPress.
Yeah. So the idea is again, when you kind of go to Google and start searching for Ether, one of the first results is the web page or the documentation, but never it sends you to the wiki by default, right? So then users are gonna just click on web page, and at least there we should have some kind of clear indication what exactly it is, and then if you want a specific details, then of course go to the wiki, as we already have that there.
I mean, there are some of these things that are easy to do, so we should just do them, and you should feel empowered to do them as well. And I think drawing this equivalency is a good place to start. And I mean, then
Exactly.
once you can, yeah, trivial things to do. But we need to do
Right.
the easy things at least. How do I save this?
Oh, in the lower right corner it says publish.
No, I got something standing in front of it, so that's why I couldn't see it. All right. Yeah, but so Michelle, what is the right process for making changes like this to the main web page? Well, Denise, I see you there. Do you have access to the web page? Denise, are you there?
She's muted.
Maybe not actually there. Well, all right. So, I mean, obviously, it's going to be hard to drop SD core as a name because it's too many places. But I think just drawing the equivalency will help.
That's understandable.
I
mean,
yeah.
The main thing is to kind of have somehow, let's say, Aether SD core or Aether rig, but to make it clear for the case of the SD run, that is not actual a run, but it's just a rig. For the case of the core, if they talk about Aether SD core or SD core or Aether core, basically those are the same. So that's what we need to kind of have very clear for end users. And the other part is on the web page as well. It's something that I have brought to you a couple times is about the TST members and their affiliations, right? So that's something that we need to properly update to reflect the reality of what is happening right now, because that's the other point that I was hit like 2-3 times as a second question. It says, okay, who is contributing to your project, right? And when I talked to Rani, the person who did the presentation, gave the presentation for the Linux Foundation on Okudo, and he was saying, make sure that you have a diversity of institutions, diversity of contributors. So that's going to show the activity and keep, have more track for the project itself. But if it is only driven by one single individual, one single institution, so people who want to contribute make kind of step back and say, okay, how risky is to do this?
Well, I mean, so Gabriel, you've just moved from a superficial topic of fixing up the web page, which is easy to do, to a fundamental problem, which is we don't have that many people contributing. It's kind of hard to gloss over the fact that we have so many contributors.
Right, but at least going back to what I brought this topic, at least from the webpage, updating the affiliation, so you can at least from the webpage show the variety of kind of like affiliations for the different members of the TST, for example, right?
Well, so I would even I absolutely right that we can change Wuzhong and AJ from Intel to what their real jobs are. That should absolutely happen. But updating the web page also deletes canonical, which takes away a huge, visually impressive thing. I mean, I'm just saying there's no easy fix for this. This is a challenge that we have right now, and I don't see how we get out of it easily.
What about also the iOS MCN, right? We know they're using SD core, right? They have their own version. Can we bring them in also here, Larry?
Well, we've asked them to, and I think you have as well, to participate in the TST. Nominate someone to be on the TST. I haven't heard anything back from them.
Mm-hmm.
That would be ideal.
Yeah, maybe we can push back. I ask again, right, and see. Same with NIWIC, right? We asked the Navy. They didn't know if, from a government point of view, they could participate, right? So they were going to check. We We can check again with Mike, right?
I don't know. Denise, are you there?
I am here.
So you maybe missed this a little bit ago. We're now talking about who's actually participating, and you've got now another organization.
I do. Co-ran Labs. I just pushed the blog out.
We need to get these people showing up at the TST, participating in the TST, so we can, list them in our participants and contributors.
Yeah, I agree. I will I will send them an email and I'll copy you on it. I've been communicating with the CEO, and he's the one who put together the blog. So I will introduce you, and I agree we need to get them active.
So I had a question a minute ago. You may have stepped away. Do you have write access to the web page?
Yes.
So could you take as an action item, assuming you have the time to do this, bringing some trivial things on the web page we were just talking about, aligning it a little bit better with what's the reality on the ground, which you can find on the wiki. And I'll point to again what the keys are. We're trying to establish equivalency between the name SD core and Aether core.
So which do we want to start using? I mean, we've been using SD core.
We can't abandon SD core. We need to. I think it's enough to establish the equivalency, and maybe we officially call it Aether core. That's fine.
Okay.
Or I mean, maybe we flip it around and we call it Aether core, and we say also known as SD core.
Yeah, I think that might be the easiest, at least at the highest level on the web page.
Yeah, and we need to align the wiki, and SD-RAN. That's just more tricky because SD-RAN sticks pretty well, even though it's inaccurate. It's really the Ether near real-time RIC.
I know.
All right.
Yeah.
And likewise, we should call it the Ether rock. So basically, aligning the names. The second point was making sure it's clear that SD core works with a variety of RANs. It's not tied to one RAN.
Yep.
And the third thing is to make sure that we have the right names and affiliations. So Wuzhong is no longer with Intel. AJ is no longer with Intel. Gislan is no longer on the TST. Sean is no longer with Intel. I don't know where he is.
I think Sean is joining Red Hat, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, he just joined Red Hat.
Okay, so good. So this gives us more diversity.
Correct.
So Wuzhong's with Microsoft, and AJ is with
Oracle.
Oracle. Good. So I think those are the three things: update the affiliations and the TST. Introduce Aether core and Ether near real-time RIC as alternative names. In fact, it's the preferred name.
Okay.
And make sure it's very clear that the Aether core works with a wide set of RANs.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. And then I will also do an introduction to you to the co-ran, to the CEO there.
Thank you. Yeah, and sort of on that reminds me of the other topic in here, which we need to not lose. I need to get into edit mode. Some possibilities. Someone from it's ISOMNC.
iOS. MCN.
Yeah, iOS. Thank you. Yeah.
iOS MCN.
MCN. Yeah.
And we just need to go see if we can. Okay. So Gabriel, this is a great topic, and let's go back and touch up. There's another, at least one other big issue in there, which is uh, well, I know you're working on the repo organization, and maybe we can get some help from Michelle on that too. Go ahead.
Okay, so that's kind of like aligned to one of the bullets that I also have in the SD core, right? So I was kind of checking, and that's what I sent a message through Slack to you and Eric to see whether Eric can help us kind of checking whether the Aether organization or Aether project organization as names are available for us to use on GitHub. So we can start kind of aligning most of this stuff into the Aether umbrella. The organization name Aether is basically created, owned by somebody, but it has never been used, right? So it seems to be inactive. And there is another organization that's called Aether Project that it was created. The Aether organization, I believe, was created in 2022 and it was never used. And the Aether project organization was created in around 2018, and there was only one repository that was forked into that organization in about 2021 or 2022, but there was no activity. So those kind of seem to be inactive organizations, and I was kind of wondering we can start kind of somehow consolidating into more aligned name to what we have right now, such that everything is about Aether itself, right? So that was kind of wondering if we can start doing something because we have everything related to OnRamp we have inside the Open Networking Lab organization. Everything we have for the SD core we have inside the OMEC project organization, and everything with the RIC and the ROC we have inside the ONOS project organization, which basically the organization's name are completely not necessarily related to what the actual names for the projects are. And that's what I was kind of wondering whether we can have a better way to organize or consolidate that to, again, better align with the message that we're trying to say that, Aether, what is Aether, its components, and properly kind of better distribute, and we can actually better promote that.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I'd love if we could make it work. I looked into it a couple of years ago when we got started and ran into the wall of someone else owned it. I didn't try to pry it loose. I'm not sure how easy or hard that is. And I couldn't find any other names that were obvious substitutes. I think either Aether or Aether Project would be fine. I guess we use something like Aether 5G for
For the LinkedIn, I think, because we didn't. Ether was already taken, so I think we used Ether 5G for the LinkedIn.
That's LinkedIn, okay. I mean, we could do that. It's not ideal, but we could do that. But
I mean, if we just change the name of what's currently the MicroOnos org to Ether 5G and then consolidated repos under that organization, would that be an option?
I would use personally, I would use the one that we've got, the Open Networking Lab is the one that we changed the name of and bring other things in there. And the reason for that is I think technically we ought to leave the ONOS project where it is because there's ONOS existing independent of anything else.
Yeah, so what I was kind of thinking actually is create a new organization, not kind of rename an organization. Create a new organization and then start moving repositories that actually are actually used into that organization. So, for example, in the OMEC project organization, we have like 70 or 80 repositories there. But those are either the 4G related repositories that are archived by now, or there are some pretty tiny repositories that we can start for the 5G system that we start basically consolidating into a single repository instead of having to maintain lots of tiny repositories. So it would be better if we create a new organization, let's assume that we are lucky enough to get the Aether project organization as name. So what we do, what I was planning to do, it says, okay, from the OMEC project organization, I am using this, and this repository. So I'm moving those repositories into this new organization. And then we leave the OMEC project organization there as, with the archives file, the repository. So that's kind of history for whoever users are using that archive stuff. But for the new stuff, just use this new organization. That's something that I was kind of thinking. So we don't get tons of repositories that are not actually used into an organization that is active.
Yeah, in an ideal world, Gabriel, that's the right way to do it, right? That allows us to clean up, old repositories and get things all aligned and cleaned up. The caveat with this is that's a whole lot more work to do it that way, and who's going to do the work is the big question.
Well, I think we'd get the work done. I think we don't have that many repos to move, and I think we are motivated to do it. I think the harder problem is coming up with an org name that we're happy with. And the two most obvious ones, I don't want to compromise too much here. I don't know that it's worth it. How do we get control of either Aether or Aether project?
And yeah, that's
Gabriel is taking this up with Eric, but Michelle, maybe you have channels to help make this happen. I don't know.
I think Eric is focused on the wind down because that's the limit of his support. I don't have any other channels to make this happen. It's not within scope for PMO, so it really would fall to the community, which is why I raised the question of who would do this.
Well, I mean, how does one go about pressuring to get a hold of Gabriel, maybe you have more experience with this, getting a hold of an unused GitHub org? Didn't Eric offer some hint as to what you needed?
Well, of course, my original question wasn't quite clear. I didn't basically convey the message that I wanted to kind of convey when I sent the message. Basically, I was asking Eric whether if through his contacts in GitHub, he would be able to kind of get the information who owns these organizations. And of course, his message said, if that's something that I'm not going to be able to get, and basically, if I'm basically a private user, I don't want my private information to be public. But of course, my goal was not to actually know who is the owner, but my goal was actually being able to see whether we can contact the owner or we can find out whether the organization is available or not. I mean, unused or inactive, right? So my end goal was to try to figure out whether we can get either the Aether project organization or the Aether organization somehow get if nobody's actually using it, even though it is created. But if it is not being used, I don't know whether the GitHub policy.
So I think this is a matter of contacting GitHub, and this is, Michelle, was my point. It was I imagine that LF has more experience interacting with the GitHub hierarchy, powers that be, on this kind of topic. I have no experience with it. I don't want anyone to do it for me. I just want some advice as to how does one go about doing this. And I thought maybe LF had some experience with that.
Correct, and that's the reason why I was kind of asking Eric, because in my I don't have any experience on that, right? And I don't have any kind of contact on GitHub to any channel to contact. But I guess Linux Foundation should have a channel to connect with GitHub to get some feedback on this.
I don't think so, guys. I think it's literally you can try to send a message or a pull request or something to that org and see if somebody responds, but other than that, we need to come up with a different name or we need to consolidate under an existing organization.
Gabriel, you want to do it, or should I try to poke the orgs and see if I have any luck?
If you can try to do that, that would be very helpful for me.
I'll give it a shot, and we'll see if anything comes of it. I was just, this kind of thing I imagine happens all the time, and I just thought someone could advise us on whatever was the kosher way of going about it. But I'll just start poking and see if I get it anywhere.
Yeah, and then I think if I understood correct, Michelle had two part, kind of, it was a two-part question, at least how I understood it. One, it was about this organization, how to kind of create this organization, but the second part was who is going to be responsible on moving these things, the repositories.
Yes.
Yeah, so for that part is pretty straightforward. So that's not an issue. It's just a matter of kind of a few settings. I mean, I am admin on the ONOS project and in the OMEC project. But of course, since we are maintaining primarily the OMEC project, so we can actually just transfer quickly, very easy transfer the repositories there. So that's not a big issue. The main issue at the moment is kind of like find an organization that we can actually use and where to move these repositories. And that's why we're kind of trying to see whether we can get these either Aether project or Aether organizations on GitHub.
All right, I'll take the action item of seeing if I can make any progress, and I'll certainly, my priority would be Aether or Aether project. And just again, LinkedIn, we're Aether 5G.
I believe so.
I'll double check.
Right.
And I mean, that's an option.
We are Ether 5G.
I'd really rather not be stuck to the 5G because immediately people dismiss you as what we're now doing next year.
Exactly. Yeah. Try to avoid the 5G. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I will. I'll
my
cross that off
personal
my
preference.
list.
Yeah, my personal preference would be Ether project, such that the organization name is aligned to the organization name that we already have in Docker Hub. In Docker Hub, we have an organization name called Ether project. And secondly, the website domain, it's already Ether project. So if we can keep that as a Ether project in GitHub, that would be great to kind of align everything as in a kind of like under a single name for that.
Got it. All right. Is there anything else? I'll take that on.
Any way to kind of do some kind of outreach about, Ether or on-ramp?
If you have any suggestions or any ideas, people to talk to, let Denise know. I mean, she has some amount of time to work on that. So
Right.
But Larry, from your time in the academia, do you have kind of contacts on universities where this can be kind of promoted, or?
well, I talk to multiple universities and I collaborate on proposals they're putting together. There aren't a lot of them. Iowa State, Purdue, and now Michigan. Because
Yeah, we should ping
Michigan, they've got
Shabazz
a
again
major
and see.
proposal in the works. Certainly talk to Northeastern, but that's primarily the power project. There's no magic bullet though. I mean, nobody.
Oh yeah, certainly. But we need to start with something. Otherwise, again, it was from last week. Wasn't kind of like all the questions I was
it's
getting.
frustrating to be in a meeting like that and feel like you have one hand tied behind your back with your project.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
What about the Navy, Denise? Do you have something to present to them, some slide or some?
A slide?
Hello?
Yes. I'm not sure what you're asking.
Well, to reach out, to reach out potential partners, right? Do we have a presentation? Do we have some slide to present?
Gosh, we have some slides, but I think they're probably dated that we would need to go back and take a look at. But yes, I think we could pull from ones that we've used in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Because the Navy is working on this, right? The only question for them was, can a government agency like them join a consortium like Aether, right? But
Right.
if we have some slides, we can always show them the slide and see. I mean, we work with them on a weekly basis. We work very closely with them, right? So it's
Right.
So I've got slides that correspond to this. I haven't looked at this in a little while, but you can I don't know if you've seen on the screen here, there's a YouTube video that walks through.
That might have been when we were operating the network. We should be a little careful.
No. This is not when we were operating it. It happened to talk about that as evidence that it's substantial.
Got it.
It's fairly updated, and there's a slide deck that goes with it. It maybe isn't as updated as it could be, but it's.
Yeah, if you could share this, Larry, we could check with the Navy.
Is there anything else? All right, I'll let the three big things are Denise is going to make some updates to the webpage. Gabriel has finished out the voting roll. I'm going to contact the existing TST to see for sure that they're going to put their name, nominate them for re-election, and Gabriel's going to finish the roll. What was the other thing? Oh, and I'm going to contact GitHub. So we've got some action items.
If you can share your slide or the presentation you have, right?
Okay, and I'll share my slides with you. And
probably Eric will be a good point to start with about the GitHub situation.
Okay.
GitHub inquire. Maybe he can give some good pointers.
Okay, I'll try him. All right. Thanks everybody. I think, 2 weeks is the 2nd, so that is our next meeting. All right, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.